for the quarter year crisis book tag. First question is, how many, and it's funny because on Goodreads it says I read 27 and on Storygraph I read 26. So what's going on here? First I have to update everything. I'm never ahead, I'm always behind. Hang on. Who can pick one favorite? Guys. Welcome back everyone to my channel, and welcome if you are a new subscriber. I'm so happy to have you hanging out in this corner of the internet with me. If you don't know already, my name is Jess and I have a dog named Granola who sometimes makes appearances in these videos. I talk about books, which I'm sure you're already aware of, and today I'm going to be doing a tag, which is something that is part of the content that creators in the booktube community regularly make. This one is one of 3 tags that focus on a review and summary of your reading thus far and a look forward. So it's like a check-in tag. So this usually happens, well, it happens every quarter. So we have the quarter year crisis tag, named crisis because I'm not exactly sure why it's named crisis. It was originally created by Roshan Reads. Hope I'm saying your name right, Roshan. Every time I say your name, I'm not sure. There's a half-year check-in, a mid-year freakout tag. Then there's another one, it's the end of the book year or almost end of the book year tag. Anyway, I have done them every year since I started BookTube, I think, every year. I will post a link to the video that I made last year. You can check that out if you would like. It's a really fun tag to do because you can check in on what your reading goals were from the beginning of the year, and I made a reading goals video and actually a channels goals video as well. I will link those in the description box below if you want to go and check on me. So yeah, it's fun to do these because you can look back on what your intentions were at the beginning of the year and start to evaluate how are you doing with your goals. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna pull up my story graph because I've actually been doing a fairly decent job of keeping track of my reading on Storygraph. I don't know if I mentioned this as a goal in terms of my technology. I think I have in the past. I use Goodreads and Storygraph, but I was terrible at keeping my Storygraph updated, and this year I've tried much harder to maintain my Storygraph, and I'm doing a good job so far. I'm really happy about it because now I can look back and look at what my most moods were. Storygraph is known for having better stats, and also it's not attached to Amazon, so everybody should use Storygraph instead. The first question is, how many books have you read so far? And I have read, according to Storygraph, 26 books so far in 2024. And I'm kind of floored. I can't believe I've read 26 books. That blows my mind. I think that's the most books that I've read in a first quarter ever, at least since I've had my BookTube channel. So that's amazing. If I keep up with this pace, I might read 100 books this year, which is wild. That's wild. I don't even want to think about that. It's like overwhelming to me. I don't want anyone to compare. Okay, I've talked about this in my other quarter year crisis. I think I made a big soapbox about comparing. Don't compare yourself to others. And 26 books is a lot of books to have read in a short amount of time, 3.5 months. I'm aware that I have. It's like it's a hobby that I'm very passionate about. Part of the reason that I've read so many books this year is because I participated as a judge in the BookTube prize in the first round in the Octo finals. And I think that's a big reason why. Another reason is because I've been more committed to following the Women's Prize, the long list, and the Carol Shields Prize long list, and Canada Reads. I really put some, I don't want to say pressure, but I really put an intention there to read books from those different prizes and the event of Canada Reads. So I think that that really increased the amount of books that I've read. I set my goal at 70, so I'm way ahead of my goal. According to Goodreads, I'm like 7 books ahead of schedule, which is a really great spot to be in. I don't feel like there's any crisis happening over here. There's no crisis I'm not having any crisis here because I'm well ahead of my goals, if that's where the idea of crisis comes in. So that's how many books I've read so far. The second question is, have you already found a book you think might be a 2024 favorite? If not, what was your favorite book you read that wasn't quite 5-star? If you do follow me on Goodreads or you follow me on Storygraph, it's not that I never give star ratings, and I've talked about this actually in a tag about how you rate your books, and I will leave that linked in the description box as well. But I do have a difficult time with the whole star ratings, and it's something that I think I need to work on. I don't think I have a favorite yet this year. That being said, I've read some amazing books already so far this year, and I actually need to get one of them, so give me a sec. I think this happens in every video where I forgot all my props. Hang on a sec. So the question does say your favorite book, and then it says, have you read a 5-star? So already there's a little bit of confusion for me in my mind, because I've read some amazing books this year that are not necessarily favorites. I think of favorites as ones that just are dear to me. I am just going to say very quickly before I get into 5 stars and favorites is that I do think that I just in March read probably one of the best books I've ever read. I think Middlemarch is maybe the best book that I've ever read, but we did complete this group read of Invisible Man. It really blew me away, and I don't think it's surprising. Some people, it really isn't for everybody, and I will talk more about it when I do my March wrap-up, but I think this is one of the best books I've ever read. It's definitely up there in the top 10 best books I've ever read. Is it a favorite book? No, I don't think I could say that this is a favorite book, but it is a phenomenal piece of literature. It's a phenomenal work of art, and it's a phenomenal story. It's like it's not just a story. It's a artifact. No, I'm not gonna. I guess I'll talk more about it. I want to focus the whole video on Invisible Man, but I'm going to talk more about Invisible Man, and I will refer to it again in this video and answering another question. So more to come on Invisible Man on my channel. Yeah, it was incredible. There were some people in the group read who didn't like it, didn't get along with it. It's not a book for everyone, but it's just, I'm so glad that I read this book. And I just wanted to give a special shout out to the viewers who read the book with me, because reading the book with other people made it a much more interesting and valuable experience for me personally. So I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. And then I just wanted to point out that I read this, and then I was reading the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass at the same time, and this book completely blew me away. And now I'm reading Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, which is the life of Harriet Jacobs, and it's phenomenal as well. So these books, and I mean, I read Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye as well, and I feel like I should add that to the pile too, but really these 3 just have completely blown my mind. There's no other way to put it. And so in terms of reading experiences, in terms of high quality reading experiences, this experience of reading Invisible Man and reading these 2 slave narratives, not concurrently, well, sort of concurrently and around the same time, has been incredible. I feel like I'm giving myself my own class, although I could never teach this class, but I would like to take a class like this. We talked about that in our group chat. But anyway, I'm gushing a lot about this, and I'll be gushing about it more. So stay tuned. Yeah, so with that aside, and Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye was amazing as well and incredible. I just feel like all of these sort of stand out in a different way from being like my favorite book that I read this year. And the question is, what is your favorite book that you've read this year? So I'm taking it literally. I'm taking it to heart. I have been having a hard time deciding so far what's my favorite. I don't think that I've read a favorite yet, but I might have, because a lot of it will depend on what else I read this year. I've had a couple of disappointments, which I'll get to in a minute, because that's part of the questions in the tag. It's a toss-up between Northwoods, which I really, really enjoyed. I'm not sure if I was giving stars if Northwoods would be a 5-star for me. I feel like I can't decide whether it's 4.5 or 5, but that's splitting hairs. I talked about this in a wrap-up. It's just this sprawling story that covers different eras in sort of, I guess, the northern part of Massachusetts, so in New England, from the time of colonial settlements all the way up until I think the 70s. It centers around a house and the stories of the different inhabitants of this house. That's just a brief overview. If you want to find out more about Northwoods, you can check out my comments about it in my wrap-up. I'll leave it linked. And then I think briefly, A Delicious Life. I still think that this book is so unique. I mentioned when I reviewed it that the author had me going and listening to Chopin. I should just give you a quick summary. This is the story of, it's a historical novel, but its main character is a young girl of 14 named Blanca, who's a ghost. She doesn't haunt in the sense that they are aware of her, but a lot of the story is told from her perspective, and she is inhabiting this monastery in Mallorca where George Sand and Frederick Chopin go while he's ailing and he's sort of trying to recover from ailments. She falls in love with George Sand, and it's just, this book is just so, I really fell in love with the character of George Sand, and I think it's my favorite book so far this year. It's not for everyone because there's a ghost, so there's a supernatural element. Again, you can find out more about what I had to say about this book. I'll leave a link to my review of it, but I think so far this is definitely up there. I haven't quite finished it yet, and I have sort of mixed feelings about this one. I'm not sure where it's going to end up. I think if I was giving it stars, I would probably give it 4-star, and I'm going to wrap it up in my wrap up for March. I'm almost finished, and then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, and I personally really am enjoying this book. I've seen a lot of negative things about it, which I don't know, I I can kind of see the comments, like some of the comments that I've read that are negative. They have good reasons, but I think that, again, I think there's been a lot of this where it's difficult for, sometimes when it's an Indigenous author, the storytelling is very different. And I think that she's tried really hard here, and I'm not going to do a whole review, but she's tried really hard here to make this accessible and not compromise her Indigenous storytelling and do it in an interesting way. I'll talk more about that when I review it, when I finish it and review it, because I still have one and a half chapters left, almost finished. But I think this book is fantastic. I think it's really, really good. So is it a favorite? It could be a favorite of the year. It could be. We'll see. We'll see what other books I read. The kind of sleeper favorite, which I think if you forced my hand, I feel like it could be Loved and Missed, because this book just touched my heart. I recently talked about it when I talked about the rankings for the BookTube prize. This book is about a single mother whose daughter is a drug addict, who has a daughter, and it's about the grandmother's relationship with the child, raising the child, and her relationship with her daughter, and it's very painful and it's very wrought, but it's also very sweet and sentimental in parts. There are these little vignettes that Susie Boyd crafts really, really well, that are really touching. And yeah, this book got me in all the feels. So it's a little tricky for me to pick. As you guys know, if you've been around my channel for any time, you know it's difficult for me to pick favorites, but those are the ones that I wanted to really highlight. I know I'm only supposed to pick one. Whenever I do these tags, I always have to pick more than one. Who can pick one favorite? Moving on to the next question. Any 1-star books, least favorite book of the year? Oh man, that's tough. I don't generally give 1 stars. I thought this question was most disappointing. I didn't know it was like least favorite. Is there a most disappointing as well? Am I gonna have to parse this up? No, most disappointing. Well, I think the book that most disappointed me, because that's what I thought the question was, so I'm gonna put it that way. The book that most disappointed me was, I'm sorry everyone, Boulder by Ava Baltazar. It was okay. I'm glad it was short. I could not connect to the main character. I couldn't connect to the narrator's voice. I just couldn't, I don't know. It was very difficult for me to feel invested in the characters in this book. And it was disappointing because it was so lauded and it sounded like it was going to be an interesting story about a woman who's not interested in traditional domestic life. And I thought that would be really interesting to have it be explored. And I just didn't, I don't know if it was the writing or if it was the character or what it was, but I just found myself not feeling very invested. I did say when I spoke about it in my wrap-up that I thought it possible that it could have been the translation, but I don't want to put it all on the translator. I think it wasn't for me, as we like to say. So it wasn't a 1-star read. I think if I had to give it stars, I probably would give it 2. I think that's probably the lowest rated book that I read. Rouge might come in at like a close second. That was a big disappointment, even though I still love Mona Awad and I'm still not willing to say a lot of negative things about her, but Rouge was quite a trip and it was a little bit over the top. So most read genre so far. So we're looking at some statistics. So we're looking at some statistics here. So let's look at the most read genre. I wonder if anybody can guess. Probably literary fiction, right? Probably by a landslide. 18 books. So 18 of the 26 books that I've read were literary fiction. And these genres are a little funny on Storygraph. I'm sorry, but they are. Like feminism. What's that? There's only one book out of the books that I've read that's feminist, and it's Riot Days? Come on. We'll have to look at how that's defined. I guess the users make their own tags. So yes, most read genre is literary fiction. Second most read genre is historical fiction. The next question is a book that surprised you. Guys, okay, well, first of all, this book surprised me because I didn't even know about it. I would never have heard of it. If it wasn't for the BookTube Prize, I would never have read it. So obviously, massive surprise there. And I'm so happy I read it. I loved it. Second major surprise, also from my experience reading for the BookTube Prize. And this is a book that I thought I would not like at all. And I ended up really enjoying it so much. It's not a perfect book, but I thought it was hilarious. And I really got into the characters and it was a romp. And I had a good time with it. And also at the same time, it did have enough seriousness where I got other feelings about the characters as well. I caught feelings for the characters as well that were more sympathetic. So that is Big Swiss by Jen Bagan. I had no idea I would like this book. I thought, oh no, it's another book in the vein of Ottessa Moshfegh and Mona Awad, who I love, but I don't know why I thought this wouldn't be good. I think I probably watched booktubers saying it's not good and believed them. So my mistake. Whoops. I think Scott liked this book, but I can't recall. He does so many book reviews that I actually have a hard time keeping up. He's fantastic, but I can't keep up. But anyway, this was a lovely surprise from reading the BookTube Prize. Those are my surprises so far. I've had a really good reading quarter, I must say. Oh, next question is a book that's come out in 2024 that you want to read, but you haven't already read yet. I mean, I have books that I want to read, believe me. But I think the big one is probably James by Percival Everett. I know that Ben Reads Good just did a super positive review of James. Other people are reading it. I'm feeling a little left out. Brian at Bookish has also done a review of James that I haven't even had a chance to watch yet. So, but yeah, I'm excited to read James. It's a retelling of the story of Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of his friend Jim. I'm going to see if I can get it from my library. And then the other book that I've heard a lot of buzz about that's come out in 2024, or is coming out here in Canada in April, is Clear by Carice Davies. I've heard so many good things about this book that I would also like to read it. And there's something about the Welsh. I don't know about you guys, but did anybody else love the super furry animals? I did. One goal you made that you've succeeded at. Okay, I am so proud of our little community read of Invisible Man. It was my first time hosting a read-along. It was so nice to do it. Thank you again to those of you who participated. I wasn't sure that I could do it. It's the easiest thing. It's not a problem. I think I'm going to try to do more of those. I'm also very proud of the Middlemarch video that I finally made. And I did talk in my channel plans goals at the beginning of the year. I did talk about doing more videos like that, and I'm thinking about doing something similar for Invisible Man because I think it would be really interesting to do that. What else? I've been pretty good with my classics list. I don't have the Bluest eye with me here, but once I finish the narrative of the narrative of the life of a slave girl, I will have had 4 of my classics read. I think that's pretty good. That's more than 1 a month, although I kind of counted these as 2, but I feel like I'm on track. Big goal was to participate in the BookTube prize, and I did, and I'm really proud of that. I'm doing really well with my goals so far. We'll see how the rest of the year goes, but good start. I have plenty of slacking off I can do now because I had such a good start to the year. One of the other goals that I had was to use my library. It was a big goal, and also to use my technology, so my Kobo, and to learn how to use the Libby app. Actually, just last week, I figured out how to, I know I sound like such a dork. Why is it so hard for me to figure out? But I figured out how to rent or borrow Loot by Tanya James, which I have to admit I haven't started reading it yet, but I'm like, damn, I figured out how to borrow that book. So I'm gonna borrow more books, more ebooks. I'm really excited for that. But I have been going regularly to the library and just having so much fun, you guys, at the library. I was already kind of having fun at the library, but now I have just thrown caution to the wind and allowed myself to take out as many books as I want and return them if I don't read them and not give a hoot about it. Here is my most recent library haul. We have Chlorine by Jade Song. I'm not going to get into all of these. Land of Milk and Honey. This was longlisted for the Carol Shields Prize. It did not make it to the shortlist, but I still took it out because I'm curious. And Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. This is like a thriller. Black Sheep. There's one in every family. I mean, I'm just having fun at the library. I also have Page Boy out of the library, which I'm reading this month. I don't have it with me. I took and then she fell out of the library. And I'm just really making good use of the library, and I'm really happy about that. I was before, but I've made it more of a point. It was one of my goals for this year. So those are some goals that I'm doing really well with. Another goal that I talked about this year that I haven't done anything about is the possibility of rereading some books. But I do think that in the summer I will maybe reread a couple of books, and maybe in the fall. Still have an idea to do that. And then in terms of goals for the channel, I think I'm doing pretty good. I wanted to do some more standalone video essays, and I do have a couple of ideas for those, but I think I'm just gonna have to hang on until my semester is a little bit lighter. I'll do some of those then. One goal you made that you need to focus on. I don't think there's too much that I need to focus on. As I said, I had the idea for the channel that I wanted to do more video essays. I did do the video essay for Middlemarch, and I want to do one for Invisible Man. And then I think from there I have a couple of other ideas that I'd really like to flesh out for video essays. I'm going to keep them tight-lipped for right now because they may be topical and I want to keep them a surprise for everyone. I think I'll do a couple of those this year. I've done really well with following the prizes. I'm really pleased with how well I've done following, especially the Carol Shields Prize, which I made an effort to read some of the books. I got Cocktail, I don't have it with me, the set of short stories, and Chrysalis, another set of short stories to read. And I picked up some other books that were on the long list. Not all of them have gone on to the short list, and I'm not committing to reading the short list for the Carol Shields Prize. But I did notice that Eleanor Catton's book is on there, so my fingers are kind of crossed for that one. If I will probably for sure read the winner, whoever the winner is. And then for the Women's Prize list, I have procured books, but I haven't read quite as much. And so I'm more focusing on reading Women's Prize books this month. I'm not going to read all of the books on the long list, but I'm planning on reading Brotherless Night. I'm already reading Soldier Sailor, which I just started, and Night Bloom, which I have out from the library, and Ordinary Human Failings is the one for my book club. So feeling good about that. We'll see what ends up on the short list. Very excited for that announcement. I might try to read the short list for the Women's Prize this year. I think that those, in terms of goals, are ones that I want to focus on. I did spend some time last week actually learning Libby, so yeah, I feel like I'm really on track with my goals. I don't feel like there's anything that I really need to focus on. I think I'm doing fine. And the last part of this tag is to talk about new booktubers, new to you booktubers, just to give them a shout out so that some new booktubers can get a little bit of exposure. I remember when I was a new booktuber, I didn't have a lot of followers, and there were a couple of people who decided to do this, shout me out on their channels, and it made a huge difference. I don't think I would have the number of subscribers I have today if that hadn't have happened. In particular, MJ mentioned me. She does a regular series on new booktubers, which is such a massive contribution to the community. And Scott, of course, and Gemma. And then a lot of people have really supported my channel. And Rosie, who I've mentioned before. So I wanted to shout out some people. I'm just going to go to my subscriptions list and shout out the channels that I've recently subscribed to. So new to me, booktubers have kind of a smaller number of subscribers. One person who I subscribed to, I think, in the fall. Her name is Elise Reads. I love her videos. She's very thoughtful. She reads very widely. I really enjoy watching her videos. Shout out to you, Elise. So another new to me booktuber is Renee at Beyond Books. I haven't watched that many of Renee's videos, but I recently did a review of The Women by Kristen Hanna, which the reason that I know Renee is because she also judged for the BookTube prize. She had Fiction Group H. It's another good way to meet new booktubers as well. And Salik at Show Me Your Shelfie, who is also new to me as a booktuber. She made a couple comments on some of my videos, and yeah, I've been watching some of her videos. She's doing a lot on the Women's Prize for Fiction. She just did a review of Enter Ghost, and she has another review of Land of Milk and Honey, which I haven't watched yet. So I might watch after I read it. And the other one she reviewed is In Defense of the Act, which I'm very, very curious about. So yeah, I recommend you check out her channel as well. So those are just a few of the newer booktubers who I've noticed around BookTube. Just want to welcome to BookTube, to the community. I guess you can also tag people for the Quarter Crisis tag. It's not a popularity contest. I'm not going to tag a bunch of people. If you are interested in doing the Quarter Crisis tag, I love watching these Quarter Crisis tag videos from all the other booktubers. It's so much fun. So consider yourself tagged, and I'll look forward to watching your video and hearing from you in the comment section below. Thanks everyone for being so patient. Normally my video goes up on Friday, but I've been having bad connection problems with my internet. I'm not going to name names. Apparently copper wire is being stolen. There are criminals involved. It's a thing. It's up now. Video's up now. Anyway, thanks again for watching, everyone, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Bye for now. The black character. The black boy named Jim. The slave. Was he a slave? I don't know. I didn't read Huckleberry Finn. Although, I do have a copy of Huckleberry Finn that's very, very old. First edition. Very old. It was my dad's. I still use Goodreads though as well. I'm a sucker. Let's not get into it. We've had about half an hour of prep time where I kind of pretend that I'm filming so that Nola can get all of his squeaking and barking out of his system, and I think we're there. Oh, almost there, I should say. It was my first time hosting a reading.